there's a new twist to an Office 365 phishing campaign underway.
So, John, I heard you're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, and that would be email security and phishing.
Yeah, we should have probably saved this one for you, Tony, to be honest. You certainly are the expert. But this one really caught my eye, and largely because it deals with website redirection and just a chaining. I think that we are seeing this more and more frequently. Always have, but chaining one issue or one vulnerability with another one to really target people in certain ways or exploit them. And that's kind of what's happened here. Office 365, a lot of people use it, obviously. One of the bad actors, malicious, we'll just call them malicious because that's probably the best way to call it, is figured out that, a lot of people get Office 365 emails that tell them that they have a missed message, this missed voice message. And a link, and if you've used any of these systems, you click the link and it'll go replay your message, kind of like what you get on your phone. So what these guys were doing, or this shouldn't genericize that too much, but what they were doing is they figured out that the University of Oxford allowed for their sites to be spoofed just through normal mail configuration issues. I mean, we see that all the time, pretending to be somebody or actually going into their site and transmitting emails from them. And that's what happened here, is they were able to send emails from the Oxford servers because of some mail configuration issues there, and any number of them. They didn't have a limit even. And what they were doing is they were basically just spamming a whole bunch of people with these messages, fairly tailored, not super tailored. They're not, targeted spear phishing, like we would see like with a whaling effort, but more of just generic phishing and spear phishing with a missed Office 365 message. People would click that, right? And that takes them to, and a lot of times it would take them to like a Samsung server. So you would see and that's what in this case was. It was actually a Samsung.ca server. So it all looked good. It was coming from like a legitimate email address that probably would get caught by an email filter. It was connecting to Samsung's server to perhaps pick up this message. But the challenge there is that the Samsung server in question was susceptible to a vulnerability found in Adobe Campaign. And this is an issue that's actually been around since the 2019 timeframe. And it's called the Adobe vulnerability because it was first found on Adobe servers. And so this Samsung.ca server, had this vulnerability because they hadn't patched, or again, misconfiguration issue, whatever. And so it allowed redirection. So you would click on this link, which would maybe take you over to the Samsung CA, but because of the redirection, would actually take you to a hacked or compromised WordPress site, a phishing site. And this was a highly obfuscated site. Pull up a screen that looks just like an Office 365 screen. I mean, down to the T's. And actually, it was very well tailored. It actually would pull up an individualized screen. So if you connected to it and somebody else connected to it, you'd actually get almost different pages or at least different impressions within the compromised WordPress server. And then, then of course, the typical phishing, scenario is you'd click it, looks legitimate, you enter your credentials, boom, the bad guy's got your credentials. And so that's really what we're seeing, a pretty organized campaign. I think Checkpoint is the researcher here. None of the companies mentioned were compromised. That's the key thing here. None of them were actually compromised. It's just configuration issues. So, some people may argue that's compromised, but it's not. That we're not talking that somebody actually hacked into these sites, messed up something. They're just using the either the unpatched or the configuration issues to first off send the emails and then to redirect people to the malicious sites. Like I said, it's kind of a neat chain of events, without having one single compromise.
But this, John, is a bag full of fun. All right, I just want to break this down slightly. All right, it's coming from a legitimate Oxford server. There's a misconfiguration. So if they've got SPF and DKIM and DMARC in place, the legitimacy of this is you can't defend against it. I mean, if it's coming from an Oxford server, it's an Oxford email. Now you get directed to a legitimate website, Samsung.ca, and this is okay. URL filters aren't going to flag it. It's a legitimate company, and then that's misconfigured, and it redirects you to a WordPress. All the security controls, I can just see it. It's good. It's good. The redirect, by that time, there's no security controls. All that is social engineering between the bad actor or whatever we want to call these people and the user themselves. And that's really complex, but it's just a solid way of being a bad person. This is an interesting one.
It's kind of like, hey, that's some pretty good work there, to figure how to do this. But yeah.
The different steps, basically 4 or 5 steps you explained, that tells about the actors, how much effort they put into it to basically stay under the radar, and to drive credibility to their campaign. They kind of leveraged University of Oxford as well as Samsung. So these legitimate domains, as Tony said, and most of the security controls, when they're looking at, I'll look at it, okay, this is valid, I'm letting it through. That's how I think they could able to stay under the radar and maybe reach out to the end users. When all the security controls gave it a green go ahead, I think there are more chances of when a user to clicking it rather than not clicking it.
Absolutely.
I think that's the end goal, I guess, in this case. I mean, in any spam campaign, that's the end goal, to make a user to click on their link.
Yep, exactly. And the kind of the neat thing too is the page that they gave you is generated JavaScript, and it's XORed, so that even a lot of the controls you'd see in your browser, again, aren't going to detect the maliciousness because it's actually so obfuscated.
Yeah. I think, again, it ties back to our stories for today. I think even it's a minor flaw or maybe minor vulnerability, it gives a huge attack surface if somebody is willing to expose it. I think that would be a deadly combination. That being said, what are the ways, Tony and John, a user can protect themselves? I know even our security controls are passed on. Unfortunately or ultimately, it's coming up to the end user to be a little bit more vigilant. What do we do as an average user in this scenario?
A lot of education, right? Even the best phishing email looks a little flaky if you're paying attention for, looking for it. In this case, you could probably tell if you exactly knew what a real one looked like, but it's just awareness that people are targeted by these things.
Now, you're spot on. You're absolutely spot on. To add to it, I always tell people, is it expected? You normally get a link for a voicemail. That's an old tactic, but it still works today. So just if it's abnormal, be suspicious. I mean, you don't necessarily have to put on your tinfoil hat, but question it, because if you're not used to it, there's maybe something funny about it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is I was actually looked at something the other day that was kind of like that. Is like if it looks wrong, it probably is. There's and regardless of how well people may know, little typos, little changes do creep in, even if they screen captured, and you just kind of look at it. Sometimes you think that's a little fishy.